Let's take a quick walk through an example. From the medical device world, the joint replacement industry in the United States. 90% of that market is knee and hip joint replacements, with the market leaders being Johnson & Johnson, Smith & Nephew, Stryker, and Zimmer Biomet. These two applications alone are about a $7 billion market in the U.S., with annual growth forecasted between 3 and 6% over the next several years. Not the biggest industry, but it's one worth understanding if you're in it or if you want to be in that business. For each of these companies and any potential new entrants, understanding the structure of the industry is clearly necessary to develop strategies going forward. So let's take a quick look at that industry. First, are there significant barriers to entry? Years of experience serving thousands of orthopedic surgeons is doubtless valuable, so my knee-jerk reaction is yes. But before jumping to that conclusion, I would suggest looking at the past to predict the future. What is the market share of the various players today, and what was it 10 years ago? If a new market entrant arrived in that period, how did they do it? Lots of market research is available, so don't settle for a gut feel. Get the data. Economies of scale can be expected, although it would be wise to deconvolve the dollar numbers into unit volume, numbers of salespeople, etc. The key place to look will be at product differentiation. Is it real or perceived? And if you are considering a strategy of investment in new products, remember perception is usually harder to change than reality. Which brings us to another key barrier to entry, switching costs. Obviously, training with a new product will be necessary, and it might be both financially expensive and uncomfortable for doctors who are getting good results with their current favorite product. What about substitute products or services? While there are alternative treatments for knee and hip replacement and knee and hip problems, they are almost always attempted before the decision to do a replacement. So for this industry, at least in the short run, the answer is certainly no. But can new treatments delay the need for surgery? That's worth thinking about. But overall, this force is not hurting industry profitability in a typical 5-year planning horizon. Now that brings us to the bargaining power of buyers, and this is some bad news, getting worse by the year, as consolidation of clinics and hospitals makes them more powerful in price negotiations. Further, many insurance companies are now paying a lump sum for total knee replacement, and they will certainly set that reimbursement rate based on the best practices for lowest net cost. You might be forced to keep your prices low to remain part of the best practice procedure. How about the bargaining power of suppliers? This industry takes raw materials like titanium and converts it into high-value parts. A thorough analysis would estimate how large medical devices customers are to their suppliers, likely by considering the supply chain for the few key components. You also need to consider whether the raw materials are supplied by a small number of players. If there are only 1 to 2 sources of medical-grade titanium, for example, that would give them a lot of bargaining power. Without a good analysis here, I would not want to speculate on this force. But if you're in this industry, you'll want to do that work. Finally, the intensity of competition in the industry. Certainly there is competition, but is it polite or cutthroat? Here you would want to go back to the 6 factors posed in the last video to characterize the competition. Does the industry have the factors that lead to intense competition? As you can see on the slide, this industry is a mixed bag with differentiation in the processes and high switching costs, suggesting strong customer loyalty. The answer for the joint replacement industry appears to me to be moderate competition, not bitter, but certainly a strong desire to gain converts. For the industry you work in, you'll likely know this answer already. But don't forget those 7 factors, because if they change over time, perhaps you can expect the competition to heat up. Having said all that, I do not get one simple answer, but that is not what I sought. Whatever the industry you analyze, this tool will lead you to greater understanding of the forces on that industry today. That is valuable input to strategy development. Do I want to spend more on new products for this market? Should I invest in surgeon retention instead? Perhaps I should invest in direct-to-consumer advertising. Strategy is the way you deploy your resources to reach your goals. The insight gained from Porter's 5 forces should help you do that. Enjoy it.